Right, we'll get the meeting back underway. Thank you very much. And we're going to skip the urban regeneration priorities and come back to that because it might take a little bit longer than the other two. So I'm just going to start at number 22, which are miscellaneous amendments to council delegations, and we have some changes. Have you got the changes there? Well, there's a change. Oh, you've talked to the bit. Do you know about the change? No. Sorry? But what are you moving? Just the start, the paper. So, but I'd like you to consider the proposal because I wasn't going to see the necessity to take it as an amendment if people agreed to it. Sarah's picked up the fact that the removal of trees from the residential red zone would be a delegation to staff, not through the community board, but we've had a good conversation about what it's all about, and it is specifically for the purposes of ecological restoration, land drainage improvement or flood protection, and now the community board and the transformative governance group to be informed of any removals prior to being carried out under this delegation. So we're actually making the delegation, but it's a lot more. It's got some parameters around it. Yeah. So if you're moving it, Jake, are you comfortable with that? Right. And who was the seconder? Sorry, I missed that. Tim. Right. Okay. Are there any questions for staff? Yes, Anne.
Yes. Thank you. Just with the disposal of land where there is no immediate identified alternative public use or work. At the moment, our way, we've got land that is excess to requirements, and we had a report come to community board that outlined that and that it would be sold, and we had a bit of a uprising amongst some that it should have been that the community should have been asked if there was any if they believed there was any reason to hang on to it. So I'm just wondering if that's part of the process, how we address that going forward in terms of this, what's proposed here.
Yeah, so this relates to land that where we've had to buy more than's required for the specific project. Yes. And often that's around drainage reserves or potentially transport work, those kind of projects. Generally that's funded from the specific project itself, and we're trying to get the balance of the extra money that we've been paid for the land back into that project as quick as possible to deliver the project's outcomes. We would certainly look and work through with all internal units to see whether there are any plans, including particularly funded plans and strategies that relate to possible uses of that land. That's what we were proposing, but we wouldn't be consulting with the community about whether there's additional there, because we haven't acquired that land specifically for a community purpose. It's really only for generally the infrastructure purpose that we've acquired it for.
So the feeling was that given the growth out our way, that there would be an opportunity to use that land to build a community facility, for example, and that it should be put aside for future use. So how do we, it's difficult because there is actually going to be need, and we do have land there that's excess to what we need at the moment, but future growth may mean that we'll need it. So I guess I'm asking, where does the community have is there any opportunity? I know that you go around each of the different teams and you say, look, do you need this? And if you do, you take responsibility for it. But community doesn't seem to be involved in that process, and should they?
This is very specific land,
I
so
know.
it's like buying a property
I know.
and not needing all of it for the widening of the road or whatever.
And that's exactly the situation, but the community board have picked up on the fact that this land could be useful in the future, even though it's all about that. Absolutely, and I'm, perfectly comfortable with that land being sold and the money being put back in. But there are community board members who feel aggrieved that they weren't considered in this.
But the money that's utilised to purchase the land is for a project.
Exactly.
And so why should that project then generate a different use? I mean, it's a different issue. I would agree with you in terms of, and we'll have a quick chat about that in the next paper, in relation to existing properties that we've had for a purpose. This has been purchased, so it's been purchased for a road widening, or it's been purchased for a specific purpose, and the money's on budget from that project. That money should be returned to that project.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
They bought the whole lot they need.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But the community board, there's a bit that they don't need, and so they're going to sell it to the developer. And the community is saying,
Well, that's
why
a
shouldn't
different
council
thing.
hang on to it and use for the community? So, and the money that it's sold for will go back into that project. I totally get it. I understand completely. But what I'm saying is the community board has seen it as perhaps an investment for the
Bruce,
future.
perhaps help.
It's a potentially a way forward to try and keep this process as efficient as possible, and not adding too much time to it, would be that we would circulate, before exercising this delegation, in an informal way, information to the boards, so that they can say, yes, there's potential that then would trigger a more formal process, or no, just get on and dispose of it, whether that would address your concern.
Well, I think the whole council would want to have a say on whether money that was set aside for a project should not be have that project money reduced by if possible. So
If the community wanted to retain that bit of land that was for a project, they would have to find the money to buy it.
yeah. But anyway, Dawn.
So, Mayor and members, I think, Pauline, you just hit the nail on the head in reality. So there are safeguards in this delegation, and it clearly states it. And I think that's the thing I would like you to focus on as well, because this is about what you as councillors decide, recognising the interests that the community boards may or may not have. You have purchased for a purpose, it becomes surplus to requirements. If you choose to decide to keep it and not sell it on to bring the project cost back down, it says clearly in here it must meet an identified need, it must be supported by a sound business case, it absolutely should meet our council strategy, and it must be able to be funded. And I suppose that's the underlying fundamental issue. Otherwise, we will continue to grow our cost, our OPEX, our capital costs, without an understanding of the implications of that. And I think that's the message that really does need to go back to the community boards.
So perhaps if we could communicate that. I mean, I know that staff meet with the community board chairs. If this could be reported to them, and if an item could go on the agenda of the community board meeting, so that they've all received that information, so that they're very clear about what this decision's about.
And I support the prospect of what Bruce suggested, which is, we can, before anything happens, at least give information. But in reality, this is your decision.
Yeah,
I think that would be very good. I think the concern has been that, from my point of view, watching on, is that this report has come to our community board twice and be left on the table, which means it holds up the whole thing.
Yeah.
So there might be a better way of doing it.
Yeah. Yanni.
I mean, it's pretty unlikely within 2 weeks that a community board can get a sound, robust business case and establish funding in an annual plan or an LTP if they want to do something on the site. So I do think it's kind of, the safeguards are not really there. So I was just... wondering like if there was another stage in the process which would be actually circulating around to the community board, or maybe putting it on the area report for an indication.
This is not land that we've held for years and years and years. It's land we've purchased for a purpose that we had to purchase more of in order to get the bit of land that we needed. That's all it's referring to. I mean, I totally agree around the broader issue about seeking community advice as to what alternative use land could be before it's actually declared a surplus.
So if one department acquires it for that purpose, I get that, and they need it, and they do what they're going to do. But, you know, take properties around, like, say, a river, or through an area plan where you might actually want a cycleway or a shared path. You might actually want something additional that's not actually part of the original project, but actually makes sense to do it while you've got that land. And that's all. So I was just wondering what the process is around identifying what other opportunities may be, rather than the sort of detailed stuff in here, which, you know, it says retaining the property for an alternative public use or work must. It puts a whole bunch of stuff that's actually not realistic.
That's right. This delegation only applies where there is no immediate identified alternative public use or work. So that doesn't trigger the requirement. What will mean, what it's signalling to staff is that in order to bring that to council, they have to establish a clearly identified need, be supported by a sound and robust business case, support council strategies, and be provided for with established funding. So, I mean, to me, this is the most sensible of the delegations. It's
You'll never get it.
so. Yep.
But
the
community board, I'm just reflecting what their conversation that we had with our community.
Very good.
We will certainly, before exercising, and in this case because we're recommending it's a delegation to the CE because it's such an important one, but before we go through all units, and I would say that the CE, I don't know many who, if they heard concerns from a community board, would then rush to use that. They would be listening and listening to that feedback. So I think that besides the safeguards there are informal safeguards over the top of that. That means there won't be any rushed decisions on these.
So it still goes through the normal process of being circulated around the different units of council.
Absolutely.
To see if there was a need.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Which is what I was.
Might help.
So just to move on. I was just looking at on page 193 the applications for community funding, and it just says applications to the Innovation and Sustainability Fund. That's just not a sustainability fund. That's all I have to say.
Sorry. Okay.
It's very unusual. I think even Sarah said yes.
Right. Okay. So we just need to change the name of the fund. Can you do that?
Sorry, what?
It's not called the Innovation and Sustainability Fund anymore. It's just called the Sustainability Fund.
Oh, right, Joe's got that.
Yeah. And it's it's just the heading, the two headings. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So it's been moved and seconded. Any debate? I'll put Yanni.
So I was just wondering if you can put the tree delegations separately. So particularly on page 189.
This is the amendment.
Yeah, well, sorry, I don't.
So it's been amended.
So the delegation still exists, and it just gets referred to the community board.
Yeah, prior to
I'm just
exercising
mindful
the
of coming
delegation.
from the red zone meeting where a number of people in the community raised concerns about the large number of trees being removed from the red zone, and I just,
This is for the restoration of the spine. I mean, look,
so
we'll put it
if we
separately.
don't change it, it would go community board.
That's
so
fine.
I don't want to support it just being delegated away. from
Yep,
the
no,
community
that's fine.
board. Just,
Okay.
I just want my vote against that.
All right, so I'll put the tree delegation amendment, which has been significantly amended since we received the paper. So I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
That's carried. Yanni. And the balance of the resolution, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you.